That was my first night working at Domino's, a night I would never forget. I sat in the office undergoing training when the manager walked in, smiling and said, "Tonight, you will join me in delivering pizzas to experience it firsthand." So my manager and I set off in that iconic red car, beginning a night that sent shivers down my spine. Our destination was a remote and dilapidated house on the outskirts of the city. On the way, the manager told me that the customer there was a regular, always ordering the same pizza, seemingly having a special connection with the fast food brand. I couldn't help but feel curious about who this regular customer might be. The pizza car entered a desolate neighborhood with dim lights, and there were almost no pedestrians on the streets. Our car slowly stopped in front of an abandoned building, its walls bearing the marks of peeling paint and the passage of time. A chill ran down my spine, and I found myself gripping the steering wheel tightly. "This is his address," the manager said, getting out of the car to retrieve our delivery. I followed suit, and we approached the decrepit building. At the door, I heard faint music playing, adding to the eerie atmosphere. We knocked. As the door opened, a foul smell hit me, almost making me nauseous. The interior was dimly lit, with hardly any furniture visible. An unsettling feeling crept over me, and I nervously scanned the surroundings. "Hello, is this Domino's?" A worn-out voice came from inside. I widened my eyes, seeing a slightly frail old man with deep wrinkles on his face. However, his eyes were exceptionally bright, carrying an unusual friendliness. "Yes, your pizza delivery," the manager replied politely, handing him the pizza while I stood on edge. The old man's gaze seemed to pierce through my soul, making it difficult to breathe. "Thank you for delivering pizzas to me year after year. You've worked hard," the old man smiled, handing a banknote to the manager. At that moment, I sensed some unusual movement inside the house, faint footsteps and whispers that heightened my unease. Taking the money, the manager thanked him and we prepared to leave. As we walked towards the door, suddenly, I heard a deep voice, as if others were whispering something. "Why are you in such a hurry?" The old man's voice suddenly became hoarse and raspy, sending shivers down my spine. I turned to look, but he was still standing there, though his expression had become more somber. The manager hesitated for a moment and said, "We have other orders to attend to. We need to hurry." We quickly left the dilapidated house, but the sense of unease lingered. On the way back, I couldn't help but ask the manager, "Did you feel something off in there?" Looking ahead, the manager furrowed his brow slightly. "Yeah, it was strange. The old man seemed friendly, but I always felt like there were other people in that house. Maybe it's just my imagination." However, when we returned to the store, I felt that there was more to the story. My colleagues mentioned that they had also delivered pizzas to that address and always felt the presence of others in the house, but they hadn't thought much of it. A sense of unease lingered within me, like a mysterious veil shrouding that desolate area. The next day, as I went to work again, I couldn't shake off the memory of that abandoned house. Conversations with colleagues revealed that none of us could unravel the mystery. Until one day, I came across a news article. It turned out that the rundown house had once been a family home that caught fire. The elderly couple living there tragically perished, and their son, missing and presumed a suspect, was never found. The discovery hit me like a shock, as if unveiling a layer of mysterious veil. The souls of that elderly couple seemed to linger in that house, eagerly anticipating the delivery of pizza every week. Their ghostly presence evoked a profound sense of sadness and sympathy within me. Perhaps they held a special connection to Domino's Pizza, explaining why they consistently ordered the same type. I began to comprehend the complex emotions in the old man's eyes. His gratitude towards us was not just for the food, but also for the warmth and companionship our visits brought. However, the hoarse voice and melancholic expression still left me unsettled. Perhaps their lingering souls were bound by some form of restraint, preventing them from finding peace. I started pondering if there was a way to help them transcend this torment and attain tranquility. This experience led me to delve deeper into the realm of supernatural phenomena, making me more sensitive to the connection between humanity and spirits. Regardless, the events of that night became an indelible memory in my time working at Domino's. I worked for a plumbing repair company, and it was a hair-raising experience in my career. It was my first day at the company, a cold winter night, and I was assigned to repair a leaking pipe in an old house outside the city. The house looked in disrepair, as if it had been abandoned for many years. When I got there, I suddenly felt an unusual dullness, as if the whole house was filled with an ominous atmosphere. My colleagues and I got out of the car and were greeted by the owner of the house, an unusually strange middle-aged man. This man had a strange face with a disproportionately wide smile on his face. His voice is also unusually soft and pitched, completely inconsistent with his appearance. He invited us inside, and I felt a twinge of unease as I entered. We were directed to the kitchen, and I quickly began checking the leaking pipes. But the man stood on top of me with his legs spread wide, which made me feel extremely uncomfortable. I politely asked him to give me some space, and he stepped back a little, but still not enough to make me feel completely comfortable. While checking, I noticed that there was no water leaking, so I turned on the water from the faucet, but not a drop of water came out. I looked at the man confused and asked him why there was no water, but he said that he might have accidentally turned off the main water valve. I was silently amazed at his stupidity. He said he would turn on the water valve and left the kitchen. And I heard footsteps coming upstairs, and another new colleague was also looking around nervously. We were all uneasy about this strange man and this dilapidated house. We waited for about 15 seconds and no one answered our knocks. So my colleagues and I intensified our efforts to knock on the door, but still got no response. Our patience began to wear thin, and a putrid smell hung around. Suddenly, we heard footsteps on the stairs, not from upstairs, but from downstairs. Both men were confused because the main water valve should be downstairs. We both looked at each other, feeling the whole situation becoming more and more disturbing. The footsteps stopped and everything fell into silence. There was just the sound of the three of us breathing, and then I heard our manager scream, followed by a scurrying sound. He ran to the front yard where we were and told us to get back in the car immediately, and we were leaving. I drove out of there and I saw the manager with a look of horror on his face. He explained that when he walked to the back of the house, he saw a group of people sitting around a campfire, and in the center of the campfire was a deer. They were laughing happily as if it was a funny show. Hearing this story, my whole body went cold. Another new colleague and I decided to quit immediately after that and never look back. I learned that our manager later resigned a month later. It seemed like we had crashed into some kind of cult meeting that night, and I was glad we left in time. I have never had a similar job again, and the experience made me even more wary of unfamiliar surroundings.